So what's up guys, it's Tut, and I'm here to basically teach you all that I know, and it would be referred to as what people who, be watching us call dancing with our hands. So starting off with this series, I thought it'd be best to give you all concepts on, well, stretching your hands, because it is important, because angles matter. You don't want this, you don't want that, you don't want this. It makes it a lot cleaner when angles like that are more managed. Of course, it comes with time and dedication and practice, just like anything else. But, I think it'd be good to start doing it from the beginning instead of starting learning combos and whatnot and not having that and learning it later versus, or someone requesting said video. I think it's just good knowledge to know in general. Now, before we continue, I personally have to do this because I think all of these guys are amazing and they've made me who I am today as far as the dancing goes. Of course, I know what I know because of experience and practicing and just dancing myself, but all of these guys pointed me in the right direction, gave me such concepts and ideas that I would have never thought of on my own. As many people say, two heads are better than one. Now back to your scheduled program. So starting off with the first stretch, I gotta give this back to my boy Nathaniel, 2794. This stretch right here is the most simple, you can do it anywhere you want, stretch ever. And it really gives you that 90 degree. I know, because I did it. I didn't always have this. Essentially all you do, put your hands together, put them in like your praying position, the most base tutting start point, period. And then you just point it downwards. You kind of like press your wrist up to your chest, hold it there for 30 seconds, do it a few times throughout the day, and you'll see a difference. Obviously, if it's like, oh, it's painful, don't do that. Don't outstress your wrist, don't do that. It's just not good for you, not good for anyone. Don't do that. But yeah, you just hold it for 30 seconds, and do it a few times a day. Eventually, it'll help that. Another suggestion I highly recommend that I tell to people all the time, whether you do that, or literally putting your hand against a wall, pressing it, the same concept, but say this hand is more defined than that hand, and you're like, oh, it messes it all up. Well, if you want to work on just one arm, put it on the wall, hold it for 30 seconds, stretch it, do it a few times throughout the day. It makes a difference. Another really good stretch, where it's really not a stretch, it's more of concentration. Of course, I'll dive in more in detail once we get to those phases, but as far as like angles go, literally take your time, be disciplined, don't have stress on the wrist, but literally just practice holding angles. Just hold them. You don't even have to do anything. Just hold it. Eventually, you'll get used to it, and it's literally like paper mache. It's nothing. But that's my recommendation. Another one that I personally used to do, I don't know if there's any videos on it, there might be from other people, but there's something I just did naturally because my fingers weren't always as fluid. I would just do this. It was kind of like the reverse of that with my fingers. I would hold it like that 30 seconds. Well, I wouldn't do it for 30 seconds. I would just do it just to do it. But it's another stretch for your fingers. These little flaps are a lot more flappy than, like that. They can actually full on motion. So yeah, another one. Of course, this is more advanced. It'll come in later. You can actually look at this from Status Silver's page. As far as their monster creations go, like just practice holding this position. So you even see, I'm not perfect. I still have to do this. Practicing and holding these guys just to get that whole motion and dexterity, flexibility in your fingers. Practice and holding poses like this with your hands really, really, really gets the motion going as well. So, highly recommend. Alright guys, well that's all I personally do to stretch my hands and arms. The only other thing I could suggest is like if you're laying down, put your hands on the ground, As long as you get those kind of angles and those things with your fingers, you will eventually get it. It's not gonna happen today, it's not gonna happen tomorrow. Everything happens over time with dedication and consistency. It's up to you if you want to do it. But hey, if you're gonna be on this journey, why not? So my senseis go as follows. Nathaniel 2794. That guy was like the first tutting YouTuber I started watching when I started 6 years ago. These videos pretty much gave me all the full breakdown, full layout from body tutting to arms two finger, like everything. It gave the entire concept and breakdown and very well instructed. Highly recommend go check out that guy. He was the first person who taught me all my things. Next, Kyle214, aka Kyle Yang. He still does things here now and then, but many of you, especially if you were learning how to TuT, would probably know him as the guy who made combos once a month. They were really creative. They really were out of the box. Full body moving. Things people like me thought were amazing. Still think they're amazing, very creative, but like, again, it gave me my start. Let's give him this shout out. Next, of course, the legend, my biggest TuTing inspiration, period, and a lot of people's TuTing inspiration. I mean, come on. The hand choreographer of Doctor Strange. I mean, come on, man. Come on, who's gonna think of that? J-Funk. Tutorial Tuesdays. Next, it's not really these specific people. Though it is, Nemesis and Strobe from Status Silver. It was way before they were Status Silver. They were all on their own crews. Yak Films in general. And kind of like what World of Dance is doing today, Yak Films did for me back then. It was this big channel that would collaborate all these dances on there, and every once in a while they had tutorial videos. And more specifically, I watched Strobe and Nemesis combos the most. Those guys are legends. TuTing legends. Highly recommended. Next, Zach Spencer. Very, very small YouTuber. Like you would not know who this guy was if I didn't say anything. I barely found the guy. He doesn't get enough love. His liquid tutorials, his full breakdown on how that stuff works, is very well thought out and very well educated. Highly recommend. Go check him out. Next, Amazing Lights and their tutorials. From liquid to TuTing, finger TuTing to, as they call it, liquid TuTing. All those things when it comes to gloving is actually really, really good when it comes to just hand dancing in general. And last but not least, Team Photon. They're actually a local team over here where I live in Dallas. I've never met the guys, would love to one day. Love to. But Team Photon, they made a bunch of good, really, really, really good gloving tutorials that I learned as soon as, even though the rave scene has been big for a long time, it was really 2012 when Amazing Lights threw it out on the scene, even though these guys have nothing to do with them. It pointed me to them. So shout out to them. Shout out to both those guys for their great tutorials. Anyways, thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next TuTCeption.